Hey everybody, Larry Lawton here to do a TV series review of Oz. Yes, I'm late to the party. Oz came out in the late 90s, but I just completed season 1 of the series Oz. Well, let's get right to the review, so this will be a lot of fun. Oz. Well, a lot of people over the years have been telling me, hey Larry, you gotta watch Oz. Man, Oz is a great show. Larry, you gotta watch Oz. I wanted to give you my pros and cons of Oz and tell you what I liked and didn't like and some of the characters. I'm not going to go into the synopsis of the exact stuff because most people who watched Oz or watching this probably watch the series, so they're going to know what I do. But maybe this will be a little reminder. The premise of the show is it's a prison they were trying to do to help people, to try to rehabilitate people. And it was called Emerald or Emerald City, I think they called it, or something of that nature. I don't even know. I watched the whole season already. But it was about that they had this one guy who was really pro-rehabilitation. But he had his little quirks too, obviously. Then you had a warden who was, typical warden, just trying to get through his day, I think. And then you had a wacko governor in there who was a real asshole. He played a great part, a real asshole, the governor. And he didn't give a shit. Well, I got to know the characters, and that's where I'm going to start what I'm going to talk about today. First of all, you got the mob character. You had a Muslim inmate come in, an imam who was a big shot, a celebrity kind of inmate. And then you had the Spanish gang in there. You had two fractions of black gangs, and that does happen. That made me think right off the bat that somebody knew what they were talking about. Because let me tell you how that works in prison. In prison, you'll have actually a Sunni or a Shia Muslims, and then you'll have the New York Muslim, or we used to call them the New York, they call them the Nation of Islam. And literally the Sunni Muslims did not like the Nation of Islam. They really did not like them at all. They used to beef in prisons big time because the Shia and the Shia think that the Nation of Islam was kind of mocking their religion, is what they thought. And I talked to many of them on both sides, actually, because about Ramadan and how Ramadan really works in the Muslim faith is it kind of rotates. It moves, its date is moving. And in the Nation of Islam, it was one set month, and that was it. And that's the way they did. And they thought the Nation of Islam was pretty more of a gang than they are really a religious organization. Because let me tell you, I read the Quran 3 times, and the Quran is a peaceable book. It actually says you'll die a fiery death if you kill an innocent. So all these religious books, whether it's the Bible, the Quran, the Torah, there's a lot of killing and there's a lot of stuff in these books, but people take the meanings of whatever way they want and they go off. But let's get back to Oz. You know how I always blow off to some side of a story. You know how I am, guys. But anyway, let's get back to Oz. So then you had the mob boss. Had a mob boss, and boy, we had those as well. Obviously, I was in prison with them. So just to let anybody know who doesn't know who I am or doesn't know my channel, I had 4 12-year sentences in maximum security prisons, medium and maximum security prisons in the Federal Bureau of Prisons, and I know a lot about Oz and what it's about. The first thing, and the one thing that still sticks out on me in this whole entire show, I don't know if it's going to change, again, I don't know the show, is there's no yard. There's nowhere these people go to the yard. That would be illegal. You have to go out to the yard. You have to get air. I mean, that's actually a regulation in a law. You have to go out. Even supposedly when you're in a hole, you're supposed to go for an hour a day, 5 days a week. Boy, do they bullshit that one. They don't do it. But you're supposed to go for rec until you get in fresh air. Well, there's no fresh air in Oz. I mean, this is, that's what it is, Oswald Correctional Facility. That's what it is. But anyway, and it blew me away that there's no yard. I mean, the kind of unit they had also for that many different gangs, they wouldn't do that. Obviously, they could never do that. They wouldn't put those many factions in so many places. There'd be riots and shit happening, jumping off all the time. But it does jump off in Oz, which made me, I kind of got into it. I'm going to watch the whole season now, the whole TV series, period. I think it's 8 seasons I looked. But I'm doing this one on the first season. So I did like it. The mob guy, the way they control and how that worked was perfect. How much drugs was in the prison? Boy, did that hit on a good note. Because obviously they were always, doing heroin. What they didn't show in the heroin was the shooting. I saw more needle shooting than I saw snorting heroin. I snorted heroin in prison. I told you I've done every drug. I don't do drugs like that, but I did. But they do needles in prison, and that's how a lot of HIV gets passed around. But going back to Oz, some great characters. The guy with the and you know what I liked about what they did, the characters, you got to know them through the season. Not every episode you wonder who this guy was, who that guy was, and how it worked, and how they went back and did what their actual crime was, which was pretty cool. They had I don't know, he was a guy who killed someone in a DUI, a regular guy, and he got a pretty stiff sentence because it was a vehicular homicide or vehicular manslaughter. I don't think they said manslaughter. And he ends up going with the white supremacist dude who brands his ass with a SWAT sticker and, fucking the guy, and he made him all out to be a really fucking bitch, even made him get dressed up. What I like about that guy's character, boy, did he snap. He fucking snapped in a way that was, boy. But I've seen things of that nature happen. Well, this guy snapped and became a psycho by the end of season 1. I mean, when I say a psycho, this guy fucking went nuts. He ended up fucking beating the Aryan Brotherhood dude down so bad. He called it the brand, and he had the tattoo of the shamrock, which is a brand thing. And he beat him down so bad, and he put shit in his face, literally shit on his face. Let me tell you something, guys. That ain't happening. That guy would have got killed. That Aryan Brotherhood, if it was a real Aryan Brotherhood, it wouldn't have happened. First of all, the Aryan Brotherhood fucking shot caller is not going to be fucking a guy in his cell like that and making him his bitch. That ain't happening either. I don't know what goes on behind closed doors. Nobody does. But I'm telling you, that's not coming out where they know he's his bitch and all that shit. That's not happening. Period. It's not happening. So a lot of shit goes on in prison with the sex and everything else, but it's not happening like that. There's no way that is happening. So they also didn't show, they showed those guys, and then they showed like the Muslims right there, right next to them. There would be fucking bloodbaths all the time if they had that close proximity without a yard to get away, to get, different things. Another thing I didn't see is anyone going to like a library or even the chow hall came to them. It was kind of weird. They didn't have a place where the people go. They had a control center. First of all, they had the glass. That's another thing. I mean, I get it. I was in maximum security. You're going to want some privacy. You didn't see any inmates with like a sheet put up to close what's going on. That's happening. There is no way it's not happening. People would run string from one end to another and put a sheet over it and get some privacy. Whether it's a shit or jack off or do whatever else you're going to do in prison, which we all did. Obviously, everybody does that. So, and I didn't see any of that. And I know it's supposed to be this model prison they're trying to change people. That's another thing. They wouldn't have guys with life sentences, guys never getting out. They had life without parole. They had one guy who had the death sentence, and he survived the electrocution, and then they commuted his sentence to life. Another guy, he said he talked to God. So he was a crazy dude, too. They had a bunch of great characters, man. I really got into this show because of the characters. The mob boss, how he had a drug operation. And again, that's how it does work. People get the connections. And with connections comes the drugs or comes whatever else you're getting in the prison. And once you do that, you have, you got power. Even when they took the mob guys away, he still had power because he was the one who was getting the drugs in. He was the one who was running the operation. Until that dude went to the hospital. I haven't seen him. I don't remember. I don't think he died. But the mob boss guy, maybe he did die. They were feeding him glass. And then they were eating his inside outs. And listen, what they did with the food in prison and the way they had that set up, that's exactly what happens. But it's not the inmates, it's the guards. They will spit in your food. I was in the hole. And when I was getting my tray in the hole, there would be a gob of spit on top of the potatoes. It was put in with like a ice cream scooper. And there would be a gob of spit on top of that potatoes. I got so hungry in prison, everybody, I actually took that gob of spit out with my fingers, threw that out, and ate that fucking food. I mean, you get so desperate, you don't even know what you'll do. I'm telling you, you don't know what you'll do. I know what I'll do because I had to do it to survive. But that's just prison. That's exactly what has to happen in prison. Obviously, the way they did the food and how they tried to kill that guy slowly, that he would have figured out. They did have an infirmary where the people went, but again, we didn't have it like that. They don't have a facility where they have medical staffs and doctors and everything else. That wouldn't happen. The medical facility is a prison in of itself. They can't run a secure prison with having a medical unit like that. They all have an infirmary where you go there and see a doctor, and he doesn't do anything for you. You could literally break your arm, and they'll give you an aspirin. They'll give you a Tylenol for a broken arm. That definitely does happen. So it's not like they don't have somewhere to go. And they have what pill line, and you sort of one zombie. The one guy there, they ended up executing him. That's another thing. They had a death chamber and they had executions. And boy, did they execute people quick. You don't see that either. You know how long executions take? 20 years? 25 years? I mean, executions don't happen as quick as that show happened. Obviously not. And I know it's a TV show, but they don't have that. That's just not going to happen, guys. It's period. It's not happening. The guy would be transferred. He'd have lawyers, and it goes. And then the death unit is its own unit. It's death row. And then when you're on death row, you can be on death row for 10 years, 20 years. You're never getting out of your cell. Stuff like that, the appeals, everything like that happens. But it's a whole different way it happens. But anyway, getting back to Oz, which I love, the characters. Then they had the one black guy who was not in the Brotherhood or the Muslim community. And he had the little beanie on his head. And he was a crazy fucking drug addict, man. And, well, anyway, they're at the prison, and he was a crazy dude. He was always chasing dope, and that is true. You got guys chasing dope all the time. And I saw so many overdoses in Atlanta. Literally, guys taken out, blue. Some survived, some didn't. Some they were revived. But back then, it wasn't like they had the Narcan and the stuff like they have today. They revived them somehow, some way, but a lot of times they didn't, and they died. So you did see a lot of overdoses in prison. But you also, the drugs was rampant. It's just what it was. Just like that Oz, the drugs was rampant. The maneuvering I saw between the groups, that is actually how it happens. Guys make deals, guys hate each other. But what I learned in the first season, at least, it was kind of like a murder plot, or murders are happening. They're trying to figure out who did it. Then they had the guards bringing the shit in. So on point. So fucking on point. So on point with the character I remember her from Sopranos. The wife, and Tony Soprano's wife, Carmela Anthony in Sopranos, she was a guard here in the first season of Oz. I don't know how long she's going to be there. And she needed money. And that's how they manipulated him. The guy came in, but he wouldn't just get a carton of cigarettes. Guy says, bring me a carton of cigarettes a day. That's not happening either. They're going to get caught right away. They would have been bringing dope in there. They did show how the kid in a visiting room, the young black kid, went to a visit and took the heroin out of the diapers of his kid and swallowed them, and then you pass through. If you don't eat anything, and when you can swallow it and you drink water, it will pass through your system, and you get it out and you clean it in the toilet water, and there's your bag of heroin. And that heroin goes for big money in prison. So let me give you an idea. A gram of heroin on the streets when I was in prison was about $80, $100, maybe $120, something like that. In prison, that same gram of heroin would go for about $1,200. Think of that money. $1,200 for a gram of heroin. And that's just, they got it. They used to give that little piece, and it was called a paper of heroin. And that paper of heroin was $25. $25 for a paper of heroin that big. And you'd see that being rampant all over the place. Guys all fucked up on dope. So you had that. So now you have that guy, and then you got the drug trade going on, which I saw, which is obviously I didn't see hooch. I didn't see, the wine making and the white lightning making like they do. And that's more rampant in the prison units than even dope. I mean, it's just everybody, because anybody can make it. All you need is fruit and sugar from the kitchen, and you get a little piece of yeast or bread, put the bread in there, put it in the bag, and you cook it off, they call it. It will get in heat, put it behind a spot where there's heat. I saw computers there, I saw everybody. They had like a central station where everybody was so they could look around, and then they had all glass, obviously. They ended up having a riot in the prison, which obviously there would be a riot. They also had a gun. You saw a guard bring in a gun to the head of the Muslim guys, who was like a kind of celebrity inmate. And that is kind of like bullshit right there. I mean, if they have a fucking, guns don't get through prisons. Guards don't have guns. Guards are not allowed to bring guns. I mean, all alarms in the world would go off. But I'm sure it has happened in real prisons, a gun. But in this one, the guy held the gun, and during the riot, I mean, he kind of became the one of the dynamics of the riot was really cool too. But it was actually a unified riot, if you want to call that, where they took over the prison. And that actually happened in United States Penitentiary, Atlanta, back in 1987. The Cubans, they call them the Marielitos, the ones who came over on the Freedom Flotilla in 1981. I was a member of that in the Coast Guard. I was the one saving them. Well, when they came here, the ones that went to prison, those guys ended up taking over Atlanta, took over the whole prison. And they literally surrounded that prison with the National Guard, with the state of Georgia National Guard. And boy, it was something else. I knew a guy who was there. Of course, I wasn't, but I knew a guy who was there when that happened. So the riot was pretty wild, the way they set it up and how they had the hostages and everything else like that. And let me tell you something right off the jump street. In one day, just after they get food, they're not going to have the guys come rushing in with tear gas and all that shit right away. Those lives, those people would have been dead. Those hostages would have been dead. They're going to negotiate a lot longer. They're going to figure out more things to do than just, let's do this. They could have heated them out. They could shut things down, especially in a closed unit. When Atlanta was taken over, they took over the whole prison. So now you got the yard, the commissary, you got food, you got anything you want. The kitchen, so it's not like in this place they had no food. They wanted sandwiches. So they brought sandwiches on a tray and they would give it people. But the dynamics of it was what it was. It was the prison. So they're making a whole prison, and all the drama that really happens in a prison, they're putting it in this little fucking cage. So it kind of made it, okay, because it was easy for me to follow. It was easy. One of the parts that had me laughing was, it had shakedowns. They go, shakedown, shakedown. First of all, they don't do that. They first say lockdown. Everybody goes, they don't say shakedown, let's go shakedown, go to your cell. No, it's fucking lockdown. When you get locked down, then you know what's coming. But here they are, they're running around the unit, grabbing a guy and catching a knife on him right there. That's not happening. And those guys are shipped off to the hole. They're not coming back to the unit. They had one guy go crazy and beat the fuck out of somebody, do everything, and he comes back to the same unit. You fucking kidding me? You do a bad enough crime or bad enough violence in that one prison, you're fucking shipped out. You're going to another prison. And the reason they do that is because you're dead. You don't think the other gang is going to have retribution and kill you? I know they tried to say, will you forgive him? They told the one guy who was a lawyer, but not a criminal lawyer, but he was a lawyer who did the DUI and killed someone, and he become a punk. Then he become a psychopath. So he's in the hole, and they say, well, you need to forgive me. He says, I will. But he played a great part. Great freaking part, that dude. All the parts were dude. The guy who ate people. What a fucking guy that guy was. He with the long hair, and he was a psycho. He ended up dying. He ended up getting the electric chair. And this is the first season. The first one where they had an Italian kid who was very angry. And I've seen that so much. And I kind of, hung with the Italians and stuff of that nature. So I kind of really related to that kid having really a pissed off attitude. He wanted to fight all the time. And he was self-destructing. A kid. And even nobody could control the kid, and they lit him on fire. Again, great for a TV show, but I'm telling you that ain't happening. Nobody's fucking getting lit and on fire in a cell without fucking a major investigation coming out, and they figure out who fucking goddamn opened that door. So there were a bunch of murders in the building they couldn't figure out, and obviously, then they find the one guard who had the connection with the guy. They beat the shit out of that guy who had the connection. And you know what they did? They let him go back to the unit after he goes to the hole. That ain't happening. But the beatings by guards, I'm telling you, people, that was pretty spot on. Didn't like it. Gave me chills. Still does. I'm going to watch season 2. But it's pretty depicted of what happened. The guards got real pissed when one of theirs got beaten up and fucked up. And that happens. They will. There's retribution, boy. And, when that riot happened, I kind of had a grin on my face because we always used to say, man, you got this prison now. Well, we could take it over any time. And guards, listen, there was an older guard in there, a guy named Perry. He died since. And Perry used to give a class in Atlanta, and he used to tell the guards, he said, listen, treat these people like you'd treat your father or your brother or somebody else decently. Because right now we got the prison, but any time they can take over the prison. And guess what? They won't forget. Remember that. You got to remember that. They won't forget. And when they won't forget, you might have fucked with that inmate. You might be a guard and you fucked with that inmate. Once the prison's taken over by the inmates, that inmate that you fuck with, he ain't gonna forget, and he's gonna fuck with you, and he's gonna get his pound of flesh, so to speak, because that's what happens, man. It's a very topsy-turvy world in there. At any minute, anything can jump off. I did see the black guy with the hat, the beanie hat. He walked around with flip-flops too much. Listen, that ain't happening. Not in a really, really tough prison. Ain't fucking happening. Because you got to get ready to fight. You don't want to be flip-flops, buddy. You want to be in your boots or your sneakers. You don't want to be in flip-flops. So, the little things like that in this show kind of got me, or kind of, caught my attention. Obviously, no sheets up. I know nobody would think of that, but that's something like that I thought of right away. And it's going to happen. People are going to put up sheets. You could try to stop it all you want, and it's not going to happen. So, and obviously, taking over the prison, the abuse, all that kind of stuff, and drugs made it. So I really like the show, guys. I'm really liking Oz, and I'm going to keep watching it, and I'm going to do another review here in a month or so, because, I think people need to see these kind of shows, because I think they need a more realistic prison show. And they can make a really realistic prison show. And I don't mean lock up the bullshit they try to make the guards out to be these fucking lily white people, because they're not. In this Oz show, they show how corrupt they are. They show how corrupt the whole fucking system is, which that I liked. Anyway, enjoyed it. I hope you enjoy it too. If you haven't watched Oz, make sure you go watch it. It's right on HBO, on demand. That's how I watched it. Check it out. Good show. Thanks, everybody. I hope you like it. I hope you like the show. Please subscribe if you haven't subscribed. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day. Stay safe. That's all I could say. Make good choices. Don't go to a place like Oz or any place. Live your life free. Have a great day, everyone. A lot of respect. Much love. Take care.